Sports Network for the strong, not the weak.
Draft day deal to remember. In 20 minutes, the NBA changed for the next decade. The 1993 draft started with the Orlando Magic selecting Chris Webber #1 overall. Then Orlando sent shockwaves around the NBA. A blockbuster deal sending Webber to the Warriors. But suppose that trade never happened. In episode 1 of NBA TV series What If, we delve into the makings of the famous trade and what might have happened had it never went down.
The third pick in the 1993 NBA draft goes to the Golden State Warriors.
Philly or Orlando? Philly or Orlando?
The second pick in the 1993 NBA draft goes to the Philadelphia 76ers.
Unbelievable.
And believe it or not, the first pick in the 1993 NBA draft goes to the Orlando Magic.
The Magic securing the #1 pick in 1993 was the most improbable result in the history of the NBA draft lottery. Orlando finished 41-41 and just missed making the playoffs. But suddenly, general manager Pat Williams was in perfect position to draft Chris Webber, a can't-miss power forward prospect out of the University of Michigan.
If I go play on this team, I'm going to average a triple-double my whole life because I'm going to get 10 boards, and it's going to be so easy getting 10 assists. I'm going to get 10 oops a game.
Everyone knew about this guy, Chris Webber, and what he could do, and his big old hands. And we still had Shaquille O'Neal. But as a shooter, I was saying, I have C-Webb on one block, Shaquille O'Neal on another block. I'm going to get so many wide-open shots. This is going to be fun.
I watched him in college, watched him in high school. And it reminded me of myself, -3 inches. He was a big guy, liked to handle, liked to make good passes, and a big guy that liked the ball. And I think if I wouldn't have done the movie Blue Chips with Penny Hardaway.
Take that! There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. You see what that does? That takes that man down, and now that pick can get set.
I thought that's what I was doing.
No. You took the ball and you just took off around that way. Play this two-man game. Son, play the two-man game.
That year, there was a movie, Blue Chips, and I didn't want to be in a movie. I wanted to work and get better as a player. I just come from college on a great team. It didn't end the way that I wanted to. We lost the championship, so in my mind, it was more about grinding it out, getting ready for my next challenge.
First of all, I had no idea who Penny Hardaway was. So I'm doing the movies with Blue Chips, and, you know, the guys are always putting us on the same team. And I was saying to myself, damn, this actor can make it in the NBA. And one guy pulled me aside, that's Penny Hardaway.
My agents, friends, family thought I was crazy for turning it down. And looking back, I may have been, because the only reason why Shaq and Penny are together is because they used to play games after filming.
Penny Hardaway so impressed Shaq during their pickup games on the set of Blue Chips that the big man convinced the Magic front office to acquire the multi-skilled guard. And although the Magic drafted Webber with the #1 overall pick, they had no intention of keeping him.
Orlando has traded the draft rights to Chris Webber to Golden State in exchange for the draft rights to Anthony Hardaway and 3 future first-round draft picks.
I always said to myself, what if C-Webb and Shaq would have played together? We probably could have did the same damage that Shaq and Penny did. I think about it all the time.
So what if that trade never happened and Chris Webber remained in Orlando? Could it have worked with 2 young and dominant big men on the same team?
Wow.
That's interesting. Chris Webber and Shaq. I mean, it's like Shaq and Baby Shaq, you know, on the same team. It would have been tough to go in the lane with Webb and Shaq. And I do think, look, with the talent, they would have figured out a way to make it work and be successful.
So part of me is old school, which I wish we'd have kept the big fella, but Penny Hardaway was special. I think that's why, without the injuries, what if? Could have been a great thing.
I mean, I think we would have done all the damage in the world. I think I would have had fun in it, but it wasn't meant to be. Shaq and I always tease each other about that. What if it would have happened?
What if the Webber trade never went down and Hardaway remained in Golden State? Maybe Penny becomes the starting two guard with Tim Hardaway running the point. Sweet shooting Chris Mullin could move to the 3 while multi-dimensional Billy Owens starts at the 4. That leaves lefty Chris Gatling at the 5 and the explosive Latrell Sprewell off the bench. That's a pretty deep team for head coach Don Nelson and his lead assistant Greg Popovich.
Knowing Don Nelson, that's really interesting because they would have started playing small a lot earlier in the NBA than they do now. Don was always tinkering around with small lineups, so now we would have been small and would have maybe revolutionized the game that way a little earlier.
At that time, the NBA or basketball world was looking for the next Michael Jordan. Penny Hardaway, right after Grant Hill, was that next guy that was 6'8", that could handle the ball, that could shoot the 3, he could post up. He was basically a matchup nightmare at the point guard position.
I was aware of his game, and, you know, there were some similarities. I think we were both, you know, guys that 6'7", 6'8", could do a lot of different things on the court. And I was just anxious to sort of, okay, how does his game translate at the next level? Can he, you know, sort of play that point guard position? Was he more of a 2?
I didn't know that I was going to Orlando. You know, I thought Chris was well-deserving of the first pick, and I thought they had made the decision. But once they said about the trade, you know, it surprised me a lot.
I don't think Penny could have gone wrong in Golden State. The way that Golden State played, if you would have put him, Spre, Billy Owens, Mully, and Tim Hardaway together, with the way that Don Nelson was coaching there.
It would have been very tough to announce because in the backcourt you'd have Anthony Hardaway and Tim Hardaway, so you couldn't say Hardaway's bringing the ball up the floor. You'd have to say their first names.
I think if we'd have had Webber, we would have had the same success. Obviously, it would have been in a different way because we'd have been inside out. Every night, big guys would have had to get a good night rest.
Do you remember what your starting lineup would have been?
Starting lineup would have been Scotty Skiles at the 1, Nick Anderson at the 2, Dennis Scott at the 3, C. Webb at the 4, and me at the 5, which is a pretty deadly team.
Penny and I ever talked about what? No, because, you know, going to Golden State made me who I was. I got a chance to play with Hall of Famer and Chris Mullin. I got a chance to experience the West Coast. I got a chance to win Rookie of the Year. And so who knows what would have happened with all those things. And I became even a bigger fan of Penny and a friend of his in Orlando because him coming off the pick and rolls with D. Scott in the corner, Shaq going to the oop, Horace shooting that jump shot up top. I mean, they just had an awesome team. I would say it was pretty much a success for both of us.
It's stuff we talk about all the time, the what-ifs of basketball, a great series that has just debuted and is underway now here on NBA TV. You look at the numbers between Webber and Hardaway, who were traded for one another. Kenny, how do you like to look at this from the standpoint of what you were thinking when you were in Houston in '93, seeing this deal go down, or from this perspective of what could have been?
Well, looking at it now, you know, I heard, you know, as the Golden State play-by-play, great play-by-play guy said, the game could have been revolutionized earlier,
right?
Because Don Nelson would have played small. But I'm contrary to believe that because those two guys would have been so dominant, that no one would have wanted to play small. And between Chris and Shaq on the same team, because the era of shooting the 3 was not in.
Right.
It wasn't in style. Big men were a premium. Guys who don't get off the bench now would have started in those eras. Mm-hmm. The guys who have certain skill set, they're not appreciated now. There's no gratitude for it. And those guys would have kept that momentum going for longer, I think, because they would have been so dominant for a longer period of time. So I don't know if the small ball era would have caught up quick enough. I think it actually helped the small ball era Penny being in Orlando because it made it four around one. So it put another guy on the outside, kept 4 men around one instead of 4 against 4 and 2, 3 and 2 rather. Usually it was three perimeter guys out, 2 guys on the block. It would have stayed that way, if it wasn't for that.
What's good, everybody? Thank you. Once again, it's on. It is Tuesday. It's 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on what time and what day you're listening to this. Thank you for tuning in to the End of the Bench podcast. We in the building. It's your man, H-Rap B. This is built for this network. We're ready to go. I want to remind everybody, this is a podcast. Podcast, man, this is on-demand entertainment. You cannot miss it. To all the people that keep telling me I missed your show, you are lying to me and I know it. Stop it. Now that I got that off my chest, I want to thank you for joining. We're going to have a little fun. I told y'all I'm bringing the barbershop to the internet. We're going to have a little fun every week. I felt myself, I listened to a couple of my shows, I was way too serious. Now I'm put the B back into the H rap. We gonna have some fun. We gonna kick it. We gonna get it in. We gonna do all that good stuff. Y'all already know you can catch me on all platforms streaming podcasts. All platforms streaming podcasts. Spreaker.com is where you listen right now. You can go to YouTube for Built for This Network. Built for This Network. On YouTube and any app that's streaming podcasts live. That's where you can find me. I'm live and direct right now. Create a profile, come into the chat room, get acknowledged, engage, holla at your boy. Thank you for tuning in, and you know how I do this every week. I acknowledge my ancestors. I usually do each and every one of them. Everybody who's related to me, no matter what form, shape, form, or fashion, salute to you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the guidance. And for my ancestors, thank you for the blessings and protections that you send down to me and all my listeners. We in the building, mad love. Thank you for tuning in. It's going down. Now, what I do, I'm just going to be a somber moment. We're having a lot of death lately, man. But this is one of the greats in Chicago basketball history. For those who don't know, Chicago Cubs reign supreme in Chicago. The Bears reign supreme in Chicago. The Blackhawks reign supreme in Chicago. But I got some news for you. Chicago's a basketball town, people. Chicago is a basketball town. And today I found out one of the legends in basketball in Chicago passed away today. I'm going to do a moment of silence and rest in peace for one Landon Sonny Cox, one of the greatest basketball coaches in the history of Chicago basketball and the history of the world. Rest in peace. Back to the show. Now, man, it's tough. I was actually going through a few channels to get in contact with Brother Cox. Awesome guy. I wanted to get him on the show, but it is what it is. This is what happens when you procrastinate. When you procrastinate, you lose your footing. When you lose your footing, you miss out on opportunities. People do not procrastinate. Tomorrow is not promised, and when you realize tomorrow's not promised, you keep it moving, you keep it activated, you keep it cracking. Now, thank you for tuning in again. We're going to do a little football, baseball, basketball. We're going to talk a little boxing. We're going to get in today. What's good, everybody in the chat room? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. If you are on the background listening side of the game, thank you for tuning in. You are a part of this End of the Bench family as well. It is important that we all unite and get this thing cracking. Thank you for tuning in. Let me get this started.